Hey everybody, welcome to Obscurities and Miniatures. I have a little treat for you today. Well, maybe more a little treat for me, but I'll share it with you regardless. And that is some of these new models that are from Eldfall Chronicles. Now, if my memory serves me correctly, which is always debatable, and you're free to correct it down in those comments if you wish. Eldfall Chronicles had started as a skirmish game to get models produced for, I want to say, an eventual board game, but they've been putting out a few models. I want to say it was originally crowdfunded, but I am a sucker for Oni-themed models or just general samurai weebishness. I mean, it shouldn't come as any surprise if you've watched enough junk on this channel. I mean, I'm pretty, open about that. So when I saw that they were finally getting a lot of these models sent out to retail, I really couldn't resist. I was like, yeah, all right, I'll grab some. So I did. I got the clan champion here. This is for the Empire of Soga faction. I believe there are 3 factions out so far. Don't quote me on that. I know there's this one, like the Empire of the Sand or something, and a kind of foresty one, if I remember correctly. So yeah, he's got the little Oni helmet thing, big spear, and one of my nemeses on models with 1 foot on the base. But we'll deal with it. Part of it, I was kind of curious what the material was actually like. I wanted to say that they were all originally resin, so I was like, let's give it a try. Unicool hard plastic. I don't know if that's some kind of a rustic, some kind of, what was the stuff? Cyocast, some kind of blended stuff. So here is all of the stats for the actual skirmish game. That's a lot of numbers and a lot of words, but it is nice to have everything in one spot. And I'm going to make a wild assumption that everything that you see right here is going to be tied back to the various things mentioned on the front as well. Vigilance, resourceful, dash. Cool. Vigilance, resourceful, dash. It is nice to have all those keywords laid out for us. I'm one of those people that, while I do like to have physical rules in front of me, I also like to have playing aids to move things right along. So that's kind of nice to have. Let's take a look at the actual figure. Well, it's bagged. It's always a good sign for things that end up on this channel. That is 1 bent spear. Okay, so it's definitely resin. You can see it's keyed for the foot there. You can see a little nice fine imprint. The fact that there's no detailing on the base itself that's included. I mean, obviously, if you want to spice it up, I'll probably base it the way like I usually do all my bases, just with a nice quick sand and paint on top of that. It doesn't feel 3D printed. I could be wrong. And it doesn't make me think 3D printed based on the casting gate right there. But the overall quality looks pretty good. Nice level of detail. Especially when we get to see it in focus. That's not helping the situation there. Come on. Okay, I guess that's about as close as he wants to get. I'm assuming it's a he. Look like a he. This is going to need some serious heating, but I mean, I kind of expected that. I know what I'm getting myself into when it comes to spears, or just long weapons in general. I'm not even on camera. Yeah, that's going to need some work on my end. I'm hoping that that's salvageable. And it looks like I'm going to have to clip that section off. And of course, I have no clippers handy. Okay, got it clipped. Had to sneak off here for a sec. Oh well, you know what? I just tried gluing it together, and of course, it doesn't want to stay. So I'm going to let him dry, because you know what? Our clan champion obviously isn't going to come alone. We also grabbed a couple other models because I can't help myself. So we also have from the Empire of Soga, because I didn't pick up any other faction, because like I said, I'm going to weave it up here. We got the Oniashi. which is, I want to say, one of the characters, I believe both of them actually, were included in the actual, not expansion, faction box. So a nice looking warrior woman here. Big sword. Big nodachi. Nodachi! Say it like a Wonka. My nieces find it hilarious every time I see them when they have to speak as whitely as possible. So again, we've got most of all of the various traits and skills, and everything is broken down on the back as well, so you know what you're looking for, which is really nice and convenient. Grabbing her. I'm assuming it's a her. The details look vaguely feminine. Looks like a similar setup as I drop everything. Base. A little bit more detail going on than with our prior champion friend. Model. And again, I'm pretty impressed with the level of detail on these. I have no idea how these are cast. I don't see outside of... Get out of the way for a sec there. We'll get to you Musha guys. I don't see a lot of the typical telltale signs of, you know, traditional resin casting. But it doesn't feel 3D printed. And I'm not seeing a lot of the artifacts that we would have either way. Other than that little peg, but I'm assuming that's also part of the base. I mean, come on, that gate right there makes me think this is cast resin, some sort, somehow, somewhere. And I got it backwards. .32mm base for both of the models so far, in case you're curious. May not have mentioned that myself yet. And then a little artifact there that we're going to have to clip off, and then voila, her sword's going to go like that. We'll get that all glued together here in a bit. And finally, the Musha. Musha! Musha was the name of a really good top-down shooter for the Sega Genesis / Mega Drive, and if you haven't played that, you should. Part of the Alest series of games, which is really getting into some deep dives of unimportant trivia. Anyway, another samurai dude, except this is actually a 2-pack, and the only way to get these guys is in this set. I'm not sure what he's doing with that arrow in his hand there, but boy, oh boy, do I dread bowstrings and individual arrows when it comes to resin models. So I really like the swordsman, and I'm kind of curious how they're both going to turn out here. Yeah, I just couldn't help myself. So each model has their own card, which is kind of nice. Nice artwork. Again, much like the other two. Have the various traits. I'm not sure what that's all about. We'll have to figure that out someday. Again, breakdown of everything on the back. But more importantly, like only one model. No, 2 models in a bag. Alright, what do we got for this guy? This must be the blademaster. Again, check it out. That and that are the only real clues to how this was cast. I'm not sure where these were made. I'm really curious now. Because I don't see anything on the box. Made in China. I'm like busy now. Unicool Game Manufacturing. Free Company DOO in Slovenia. Okay, cool. It's always nice to see underrepresented companies get more exposure. So yeah, nice traditional looking outfit other than the bare midriff, but you know, he's got to show off those cool scars. Sword arm. Again, nice casting. Whatever it was cast in. Whoever's doing the casting for Free Company here, nice job. Maybe it was just the package that was printed in China. This doesn't seem like your typical Chinese resin casting. But then again, what do I know? I'm really curious about that now. His hat. Head. A little difficult to see here on camera. Get too close, you're just getting close-ups of my grody nails. And then finally, the bow. Thank goodness. Look at this. Look at the thickness of the bowstring. Fantastic. I don't know how many times I've seen people want to make parts for models, be it 3D printed, board game quality, whatever you're trying to do, and have ridiculously thin parts. No. No, no, no. Make it thick. The double C, right? And then finally the archer. Well, I mean, dang. It's a little bit wavy, but it's doable. I get he's trying to hold this spare one in his hand. I mean, it feels a little rubbery, like, you know, Cyocast stuff. This looks a little bit more traditional with the flash sheen on it. Same kind of basic setup for the base. All his gear. His bits of flash. Like, I don't know if that's supposed to be there. It almost looks like that's supposed to be the strings for his quiver. I'm looking at the box, and it's hard to say. Just look, check it out. It looks like one of the tassels is missing from the shoulder pad there. Darn it. Arm. Bow. Maybe it's supposed to be that way, and maybe I'm like mumbling to myself here. Okay, it's supposed to go like this. I don't even know what I'm doing. Alright, give me a sec. I'm going to try putting these together to the best of my ability, and hopefully we will have some results for you. If you'd like to see those, then by all means, definitely do. Wait a sec. Alright, hopefully everybody decided to stick around, which is what I forgot to say that when I was first filming this. But I went ahead and got everything glued together except for one specific part, which we'll talk about. But let's take a look. So here is the clan champion. Now, scratch what I just said. 2 parts have not been glued. I did not actually glue that spear in place. Now, you can see there is a nice bit of flex there. I just was able to pop it into his hands, and it's pretty sturdy, actually. And again, not my favorite way to base a model, but it is what it is. You can't really see his foot anyways. I'm thinking that once I've got some sand on there to give it some texture and then to glue it all down, that should really help keep him sturdy and stable until he goes careening off of the tabletop and ending up shattering on the floor or something, which hopefully never happens, but, you know, it's always a possibility. And I'm almost wondering if, as the champion, he's a little bit larger than the other models. Base size is the same as everybody else, but he does feel a little bit larger, even though I know one foot's kind of leaping forward. It feels like he's a little bit bigger than the other guys. And not by much, but it's there. And let me show you what I mean then. So, grabbing, what was her name? Onitaoshi. I'm like, I had to look at it upside down. I can't read very good at times. Now, she's got the tactical rocks, and she's almost at eye level with him. I'll slide you out for a sec. She was pretty straightforward. She's pretty leggy for a model. At first, I thought this was a chip here by my thumb in her armor, but that is absolutely intentional. Looking at the renders on the package, that is 100% supposed to be like that. You can see there's kind of an angle coming up here to the tassel. It's intentional like that. In fact, maybe it's supposed to be 2 halves of like a belt tied around her waist, maybe. That's why it looks like that. I'm not 100% sure. I'm still really impressed with the quality of the casting. Whoever and wherever they got it done, really, it's nice. You know, and for a tactical game, despite the fact that, you know, we're talking more hobbyist, enthusiast type models, they were pretty straightforward to build. Like, I almost want to say like board game level, you know, basically just glue them together and you're good to go. Not at that level exactly, but pretty close. Here was the other model I was thinking of that I didn't actually glue everything on. I did not glue that bow on the back of the Musha swordsman. Just because his quiver and everything is really taking up a lot of real estate on his back there. You're not really able to get at it. You can see the blue tack just kind of squished in there. Somehow I started to bust off the hilt of his extra sword there. The wakizashi, whatever. I like this pose. Actually, I mean, I like all the figures. And not to say that the other factions were necessarily bad looking, but I'm just a big fan of, you know, nerdy samurai types. This guy looked a little easier to get around the quiver on. Actually, it was kind of interesting that his arrow did a pretty good job of straightening itself out there. I guess if you weren't a fan of this one, you probably could snip it off. I got the glue dried relatively recently, so I am going to go back. You can see there's a bit of flash on the bottom of it. I will clean that up, but I just didn't get to it yet. So those are our 4 models that I have so far from Eldfall. I really want they have a kind of campaign scenario, kind of, you know, I don't know, what's the word I'm thinking of? Activities and events pack, and it comes with like a Oni girl with a big sword over her shoulder. I really like that model, but it was like $50 and nobody seems to have it in stock now. If you know where to find that, by all means, point me in the right direction, because I probably would be stupid enough to pay it just to get that model. Sorry, I'm taking a big swig of coffee here. I'm a sucker for Oni type models, and if you want to see, so grabbing one of my Bushido Oni here, so get kind of an idea of how big they are. He's a relatively larger model. Let's go with just using our Musha bowman as our size marker here. Now, keeping in mind, he's got a fairly good size base. My first thought is, outside of actually fielding an entire... what faction was this? I totally forgot. I don't have the boxes of the cards handy, so I can't tell you, but the Japanese-themed faction, we'll just go with that. If I wasn't going to be doing that necessarily in a game of Eldfall Chronicles, then I probably would be whipping them out into something like Shadows of Brimstone. And size-wise, I feel like these would be perfect. And they already have that kind of heroic board game-like quality. They're a little bit larger than life, but not really all that much bigger. I mean, grabbing like the Raging Heroes Samurai stuff that I've got printed, and these are at the native resolution, so it's not like I'm enlarging or shrinking or anything, but you can see here, like the Raging Heroes heroic characters are pretty significantly larger, especially like our samurai dude here on the left side of the screen. Grabbing one of the recent Fireforge samurai, you can see he's a little bit smaller. I'm not 100% sure if the Fireforge stuff is more in line with like other historicals. I kind of was under the assumption they were. But like if you grab something like one of the Kyoshu Neko figures, since they tend to make a lot of cool samurai models, you can see here, I feel he's pretty closely in line, maybe a little bit smaller, but at a scale where if you were going to be playing a skirmish game like Tests of Honor or something, I think having a model like our Musha bowman here would be a really nice standout hero model to hang out with like all of the more typical cannon fodder types. Using a old Legends of the Five Rings figure I painted a long time ago. And just because, always got to give a shout out to Artman's stuff. Haomaru here from Samurai Showdown. But again, you can see closer in scale, I think, to the more traditional stuff than the 3D printed type figures. The 3D printed stuff tends to be a little bit larger, I think. But if you're going to say compare it to something like Conquest, I think then you're still, for as large as he feels, it's nowhere near like Conquest size or like Kingdom Death size. It's not that big. So be aware. I mean, the material itself, I gotta give them credit. Like I keep saying, I'm really kind of impressed. There wasn't a whole lot of cleanup necessary, and the only damage that was really done is this guy is missing a tassel on his shoulder pad. That's it. And you can't even really tell based on, he's got the quiver, he's got his sword there. There's a lot of other stuff going on, and that was like the extent of the real, problematic issues. That can be fixed, and even if I wanted to leave that spear the way it is, I don't think it's going to have a huge impact on the figure. Our other two, I mean, pretty much they're good as is. Other than me accidentally trying to snap off the hilt right there of his smaller sword. But I gotta give him credit. They're nice figures. And if I found more of these, would I buy them? Probably if they have more of the Japanese faction. So I'm going to be keeping my eyes peeled. Hopefully you guys do too. And hopefully you're not sniping me on any kind of auction sites or stores that have very limited quantities of this stuff because, well, I want it too. So yeah, I will have a link down below so you can at least take a look at the game and see if it's something that might interest you. Even if it's not necessarily a game you feel that you're going to get around to playing, one of the beautiful things about a lot of this tabletop stuff is great models will always find a home in a good game system. So that is always something we can count on. So I'm definitely pleased with these. Going to keep my eyes peeled, and I am looking forward to seeing them show up at some point, someday, in some Monday morning weekly painting progress video that we post here. So fingers crossed on your ends too that we get to it soon. And with that said then, this has been High Lord Tamberling with Obscurities and Miniatures saying thanks for watching, and we'll see you back here soon. Bye-bye.